A través de este anuncio, patrocina parte de la programación de KBBF Radio Cultura.
La organización Oaxaca Tierra del Sol, miembro del Comité Mexicano de San Francisco, se enorgullece presentar su magno evento La Guelaguetza 2015, el domingo 19 de julio en el Wells Fargo Center for the Arts en Santa Rosa. Venga y disfrute con su familia de este evento, donde encontrará música, comidas típicas tradicionales, folclore, arte, cultura y atracciones infantiles. La Guelaguetza 2015 en el Condado de Sonoma, desde las 10 de la mañana hasta las 6 de la tarde. Adquisición de boletos el día del evento y en línea al www.guelaguetzatierradelSol.org. Para mayores informes, comunicarse al 415-754-9079.
El circo Flynn Creek es un orgulloso patrocinador de KBBF. Los espectáculos de Flynn Creek combinan las hazañas deportivas con el humor para darle un toque moderno al circo tradicional. El circo tomará lugar en los terrenos de la Feria de Napa, en Calistoga, desde el 23 de julio hasta el 26. Para más información, visite flynncreekcircus.com.
Flynn Creek Circus is a proud sponsor of KBBF. Flynn Creek's all-human spectacle of athletic feats and humor combine traditional circus with a modern twist. The circus will be happening at the Napa County Fairgrounds in Calistoga from July 23rd through the 26th. Information available at flynncreekcircus.com.
Estás escuchando KBBF 89.1 FM, Radio Cultura, Calistoga, Santa Rosa.
All right. Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, and this is on KBBF 89.1 FM, Calistoga. The Queer Life Radio Show, which is LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews here on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this show airs live every Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. in the San Francisco Bay Area, reaching all the way up to Redding and down to the South Bay Area. We are live every Friday night, and this replays every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. on KBBF 89.1 FM, and is syndicated every Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. on KWTF 88.1 FM Bodega Bay. All episodes are streamed live from the studio via Google Hangouts on Air, which you can watch on thequeerlife.org. TheQueerLife.org has an archive of every single episode, links to all news, topics mentioned, descriptions, and info for all guests interviewed, access to Trans Atheist Podcast and Lesbian Honest Podcast, exclusive podcasts from the Queer Life family, and support pages for crisis hotlines and access to mental health professionals for those who are absolutely in need. Please like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thequeerlife. Follow us on Twitter @thequeerlife. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/thequeerliferadio. Disclaimer, what you hear on this show should not be taken as strict legal or medical advice. Please use your own discretion and check with a lawyer or doctor to directly address your legal or medical needs. If you are enjoying this program or any other programming on KBBF, visit kbbf-fm.org and hit the donate button. All your donations are greatly appreciated. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. right. Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. And I feel like I mention this just about every single time I got on the air, but absolutely incredible. We have almost reached 1 year of programming. And if you're listening to this on a Friday, you are listening to the live broadcast of this show, either on the web at thequeerlife.org, or you can just Google The Queer Life because our search engine optimization actually works, which is amazing for this day and age for non-paid Google advertising. Just through using search engines. Or if you want to Bing the search engine, actually using the word Bing doesn't really work very well as a verb, or Yahoo search, or if you do not like to use search that is tracked by a major corporation, you can use a search engine such as DuckDuckGo.com, which is untracked private searching that is just as good as any of the above. So I kind of took a tech tangent, which I have been doing a lot because I really enjoy tech. And yes, this is a show called The Queer Life Radio Show. Yes, it's about LGBTQIA news type things. LGBTQIA, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual. Sometimes there's a second A on there for allies who are not necessarily queer identified themselves, but you are part of the community in that you are supporting us and that you are promoting the values of equality and well-being and just about, hey, the idea that we're all human. And that's just it, isn't it? And I know some of you out there are probably saying, well, why do we need a show called The Queer Life? We already have a lot of stuff about gay marriage. Gay marriage has already happened. Okay, why are you still going on about this? Yeah, well, there's a lot more stuff that needs to happen as far as equality and civil rights and just sort of a general state of consciousness for the United States and for humanity, but just the idea that we are a part of humanity, and that idea hasn't really settled in fully yet, or that we are less than for any particular reason, whether being gay goes against your morals in terms of your religious teachings, or against your culture, or your background, or how you're raised. And so I'm not speaking to the masses that are already convinced. I'm speaking to those of you out there who are like, hey, why, I don't care if you're gay or whatever, just don't why is it such a big deal? And so I'm here to tell you why it is a big deal. And the big deal is there's still a lot of very harmful beliefs and harmful actions going around, even out here in Northern California, out here in Sonoma County, where this show broadcasts live. Out here north of San Francisco, which is sort of a gay mecca. But we're at a place where things have moved forward. And we've moved forward in a way that is just so absolutely incredible. Yes, actually, we do have a lot to be proud of. We have a lot to be happy about right now. There's so much wonderful stuff happening because of awareness being created, because of news and media and entertainment and conversations and education is saying, hey, LGBT rights are worth knowing about, and they are really important. And so I'm not getting on the radio here to freak out about how bad this situation is. I'm getting on the radio here to tell you how great it's going and how we still have a little bit of work to do. That's fine. You know, we're not lazy people. I mean, well, some of us are lazy, but that's just like anybody. You know, some people in a minority group are lazy. Some people are really on top of it and, you know, gung ho about pushing forward all the work. Not that if you don't want to be a part of the community that you're lazy, but I'm just saying we're just like everybody else. And again, like I've said before on other episodes, as a trans woman, I have such a privilege to be able to get on the air and talk to you about all this stuff. And the fact that I'm educated enough to be able to communicate with you in a way that you understand. And so really, really absolutely exciting times. And again, if you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. If you're listening to this on a Friday, you are listening to the live version of this show. If you're listening on the web, you might be listening to us on thequeerlife.org or on youtube.com/thequeerliferadio. Please subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/thequeerlife. If you're watching the show live, I love getting tweets from people, and so tweet us, and I would be really thrilled to see some of your questions. And if you have any questions and you're listening to this on a Friday on KBBF, you can give us a call, 707-545-0318, and I can try to get you. But again, this is a volunteer-run radio show. I'm a volunteer, and so I'd have to pull away for musical break and pick up the phone to try to receive you. So again, I really enjoy all the interaction that I get from people on the web. If you have specific questions and you don't want to tweet or whatever, you just want to shoot an email, just go to thequeerlife.org, and there's a contact button at the top of the screen where you can just send a private email and just communicate back and forth. I also have a nice big list of gender therapist specialists on the website. If you go to thequeerlife.org and you click on Get Help, I've got a list of mental health professionals on there too. So a lot of good stuff going on, as well as Trans Atheist Podcast and Lesbianist Podcast, which are part of the Queer Life family. This is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. I'm going to kick off with some news and perspectives for you here. And first article on the list here is from Joseph Patrick McCormick on pinknews.co.uk. Joseph writes, police lieutenant suspended for calling same-sex marriage a debauchery. A police lieutenant in the U.S. state of California has been placed on leave for writing a letter calling same-sex marriage, quote, blatant debauchery. Earlier this month, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling which stated that all couples, straight or gay, have a constitutional right to marriage. Expressing his disbelief, Stockton Police Lieutenant Toby Will wrote a letter titled, quote, Marriage Ruling Shuns God, which was published in the Stockton Review. The letter, which referred to the ruling as, quote, blatant debauchery, was picked up by local media, prompting a police spokesman to distance the force from Lieutenant Will's words. Spokesman Joe Silva said Lieutenant Will does not speak for the police department, and regarding his use of his police position, it is under administrative review. Speaking to NBC, Silva said that the lieutenant has been placed on administrative leave on the 13th of July, pending the outcome of the review. Police Chief Eric Jones told NBC that while the lieutenant is on leave, the investigation will focus on whether he intentionally misrepresented the department, quote, because of the indication that it may have purported that it was a statement of the police department. The editor of the Stockton Record has defended printing the letter and has since supported the paper's printing of several letters from readers, some supporting the opinion and some opposed to it. That is written by Joseph Patrick McCormick on pinknews.co.uk. And it brings up a good point that while same-sex marriage passed and the Supreme Court passed the law, and it's now the law of the land, it's no longer gay marriage, it's just marriage now between two consenting adults. If you are a consenting adult in the United States, you have a legal and constitutional right to get married, but a lot of people still disagree. And that's the point that I brought up at the beginning of this show here, that some people consider it debauchery. Some people think it's something that shuns God. And what I've said in previous episodes of this show is that supporting gay marriage doesn't have to go against your belief in God. By passing gay marriage, by no means did we as the LGBT community want to put down religion or put down belief in God. In fact, many LGBT identified people are religious themselves. And if you are a parent and you have a gay child and you consider yourself a devout Christian or Catholic or Muslim or what have you, you can still love your child. If you have a parent that comes out as gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or what have you, and you consider yourself religious, it's okay to love that parent still. And nobody comes out as queer identified to spite religion, to shun God. It's not meant to do so. And so I think there was a miscommunication here with this police lieutenant. And of course, as somebody who supports freedom of speech, I support his police lieutenant Toby Will's right to express his belief that that gay marriage is blatant debauchery, according to him. But I think we can reach an understanding that it's just about two consenting adults who love each other, who want to enter into a legal contract called marriage, which is what marriage is. It's a legal contract. It's also a binding of love in a very, very official way. And it's a very special moment for millions and millions of people. Absolutely, yeah. But it's not something that's meant to hurt anybody. And that's just my point with that there. Next, we have up on the list here from HuffingtonPost.com, Kira Brekke writes, Ireland approves gender recognition bill. Just 2 months after Ireland legalized same-sex marriage, the country is now the 5th country to recognize a person's self-identified gender. This newly approved gender recognition bill allows transgender people over the age of 18 to change their gender without state or medical intervention. In this article, they have a video of the chief executive of the Transgender Equality Network and explaining to HuffPost Live that this win means the country's transgender community and why laws like these are so important. And the absolutely incredible part about this is that being able to be recognized for your gender identity. So that applies to people who identify as transgender And so particularly in my case, as a trans woman, as a transgender woman, it would mean that if I were in Ireland, I could get paperwork, an ID, a driver's license that recognized myself as a woman instead of as a man, because I identify as a woman. And for trans people, I know it might seem hard to understand, or it might be a little strange, or quote unquote, why is it such a big deal? But when you are presenting as a woman and you have done so much work in terms of coming out as transgender and being more honest about yourself in terms of your expression and your being and your understanding of yourself and presenting yourself to others in a certain way, you kind of want your paperwork to match up with it. You know, you call up AT&T, and because you're legally male, they say, "Oh, hello, Mr. Kramer." You know, it's a little off-putting, and it's a conversation that's you don't necessarily want to get into and explain over and over again. And it just, it's respect. It's very simple. It's just saying, hey, we as the government recognize you in terms of your gender identity, that you are a woman. Not the same as a biological woman, not the same as a cisgender woman, but a different kind of woman, a trans woman. Yeah, but a woman nonetheless. And the same goes for transgender men, those who were quote unquote born female or assigned female at birth and who identify as men. Being recognized as a man when your ID says that you're a woman and you're a trans man and you've taken testosterone, you're all bearded and got big old muscles and stuff. I'm generalizing a little bit here. Not every trans man fits that description, but for your identification to say that you're a woman, that'd be very confusing. And it's a very simple thing, it doesn't hurt anybody to recognize people's gender identities. As I've reported on in previous episodes, the statistics for the number of transgender women who have attacked little girls or women in bathrooms, the overall number of transgender women who were born biologically male who have attacked women in bathrooms is 0. There have been 0 reported cases. Confirmed reported cases, 0 reported confirmed cases of trans women attacking biological women in bathrooms, or let alone any other trans women in bathrooms, in women's bathrooms. This isn't a safety issue. This is just, again, another civil rights, equality right. And it's just respect, and it doesn't hurt anybody. And so we are moving forward in an incredible way. There's a lot of awareness being made by people such as Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black, and Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, who's come out as transgender. And she is putting a very public foot forward and presenting herself very positively and creating a lot of awareness that, hey, we're out here, you know, and I'm presenting this information to you not to get any kind of pity vote, not to say, hey, you know, poor us, poor transgender people, we need so much help, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, hey, we exist, and there's a couple things that we need just to get on the same footing as everybody else. But other than that, we're just people And that's cool. That's really, really cool. Like I said, it's amazing that myself as a trans woman is on the radio broadcasting to a radar reach of up to 5 million people. That's incredible. We've really moved forward. We're going to be going to a break shortly here, but I'm going to open up the phone lines, and if you have anything to share, whether you know somebody who has if you're not sure what to do about somebody who is transgender or questioning their sexual orientation, and you have questions, of course you want it to be confidential about who that person is, or you have an experience to share, or whether you agree or disagree with anything I'm saying, feel free to give us a call, 707-545-0318. And if you're listening to us on Friday, give us a call, 707-545-0318. I'll be going to a short break here soon. But after the break, I'll be covering some more news and be talking about a viral video in Moscow, Russia. Seaweed that tastes like bacon, twice as healthy as kale. And presenting to you a little bit about Caitlyn Jenner, and some stuff about a preacher who says the Supreme Court justices were blackmailed by their secret gay lovers. You've been listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and we will be back after this short break and some words from our sponsors.
Nuestro teléfono cabina 707-545-0318. KBBF, la voz de tu comunidad.
Caminando, caminando.
KBBF 89.1, contigo, ayer, hoy y siempre.
All right, hello everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I'm your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. In the last half hour, we were talking about police lieutenant suspended for calling same-sex marriage, quote-unquote, debauchery. Ireland approved a gender recognition bill, and I'll be getting underway with some more news here about a viral video in Moscow about men who are holding hands. I know, kind of crazy. Researchers discover seaweed that tastes like bacon, twice as healthy as kale. And from Caitlyn Jenner, she crushed the ESPYs and was given an award, and so I'll be touching on that in a little bit here. And just a little bit of quick news, what we learned this week from Steve Rousseau on dig.com, Pluto is secretly hot, and other facts. Pluto could be burning from the inside. On Tuesday, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft completed a historic flyby of Pluto and one of its moons, Charon. A day later, the public gawked at a close-up image of Pluto's surface, a jagged, frozen land with peaks as high as 11,000 feet. What's more important, though, is that researchers also found evidence of frozen methane and nitrogen, which suggests that underneath Pluto's cold, rough exterior lies a molten sea of lava. In other words, Pluto, long considered to be an uninteresting speck on the fringes of the solar system, has become vastly more interesting after a few years and closer inspection. Identity theft is an art. How does a man from Russia steal your credit card over the phone? He pretends to be you. Here's how it works. Thief 1 buys something with a stolen credit card. The credit card company flags the charge as fraudulent. Thief 1 hands it off to Thief 2, who then calls the credit card company pretending to be the card owner, while Thief 1 supplies him with relevant personal info. What's more surprising, however, is that for identity thieves like Dmitry Naskovets, he didn't choose the line of work, it chose him. Again, all these links are available on thequeerlife.org. This is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. There are plenty of ways hackers can kill us. Soon we'll have self-driving cars, drones, and computers running all that tedious nonsense like traffic lights and electrical grids. The future sounds awesome, right? Wrong. Just as 2007 summer blockbuster Live Free or Die Hard predicted, the more we connect things to the internet, the greater chance that some person typing on a keyboard can end your life. Let's just hope there are plenty of middle-aged divorced cops with a history of thwarting terrorists to save us. Thank you so much, Bruce Willis. Before Photoshop, graphic design was really tedious. Using InDesign is just so satisfying. Hold Shift and draw a perfectly straight line. Photos and text box delightfully snap and align themselves before computers. However, graphic design took longer, required a great deal of precision, and with the use of X-Acto knives was arguably more dangerous. Also, professional fingerboarders exist. Out of all the things we learned this week, the most startling was that grown men make a living off of flipping a piece of plastic. Granted, I make a living by repeatedly pecking at the same 100 or so plastic keys, so who am I to say what's a viable career option? That was what we learned this week from Steve Rousseau on dig.com. That link and more is available on thequeerlife.org, or just Google The Queer Life and you shall find us. Next up, from pinknews.co.uk, Joseph Patrick McCormick writes, men who held hands in Moscow viral video had to pretend to be anti-gay to avoid violence. Two men featured in a viral video during which they held hands in Moscow to gauge people's reactions have said they pretended to be anti-gay to avoid violence. Chibu Russia TV of YouTube decided to conduct the social experiment to see what would happen when two men holding hands walked through the streets of Moscow, Russia. The footage was captured by a third member walking in front of them with a camera hidden in his bag, and the shocking video since went viral. The men, both straight, said, quote, "For one part of the planet, it's fine to be gay. If two men hold hands, nobody will laugh at them. So we decided to see how it would be here. The idea was simple. How will people react to what is ordinary behavior?" The men said that they were not scared, but they had to pretend that they supported anti-gay legislation to avoid physical violence. Quote, "His reaction was pretty usual," they said. Quote, "We told him we were making a video, but we lied a little bit so as not to provoke any aggression. We told him we supported anti-gay propaganda. He told us, quote, 'Well done,' quote, 'Keep it up.'" So while around here in the United States, in Northern California, in the North Bay, north of San Francisco, things are fine, but in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, in this case, Moscow, Russia, it is not safe to be walking down the street holding hands with another man if it's two men. Even if you're actually straight and you're doing it for the demonstration of a video, somebody could have a problem with you and want to hurt you. Does it hurt anybody to walk down the street if you are a man and hold another man's hand? I mean, in India, they actually have different cultural standards where two men who are friends can actually walk hand in hand, literally, because they're close friends. And it doesn't mean anything in terms of sexual orientation. It just means that they're close friends. Of course, there are different cultural beliefs and standards regarding being gay in India, but that's another subject entirely. But in Russia, which has had a lot of anti-LGBT legislation being passed around, and actually recently, if you were gay or transgender, for a short time, you were unable to get a driver's license, or your driver's license was revoked because, quote unquote, you were unfit to drive mentally speaking if you were gay. You were unfit to drive a vehicle if you were transgender. That's a little confusing because I'm trying to understand the logic behind it. Is it because if I were a gay man, is it that they're thinking too much of sex with other men? What about the women, the straight women who are thinking about sex with men, or the straight men who are thinking about having sex with women while driving? So is thinking about having sex illegal while driving? I didn't know that we had thought police yet. But then again, that's Russia. At the same time, too, there are states around the states within the United States that believe in those types of same policies should be enacted, and they've argued for it. And I reported previously that in Louisiana, even though gay marriage was passed unilaterally across the country, Louisiana's governor made it so that said that if you're a county clerk or a religious organization, that you don't have to marry a gay couple. That's actually against the law, according to federal law. And so this continues, and awareness just needs to be raised so that we can get to the point, well, hey, where everybody's believing, hey, this is not a big deal. All right, we've got bigger issues. The polar ice caps are melting. Literally, polar ice caps are melting. We have people starving all over the country, all over the world. And we're worried about whether or not gay people are holding hands. And I say we as human beings, even though that's happening in Russia. If I were, as a trans woman, to walk around in certain places, I'd be worried about my safety. And that shouldn't happen. And again, I know a lot of women are saying, well, welcome to being a woman. Well, that just goes with the territory. But I'm all for equality between men and women as well. That's just it. Anyhow, next on the list is from Barbara Tasch on BusinessInsider.com. Researchers discover seaweed that tastes like bacon and is twice as healthy as kale. Researchers at Oregon State have patented a new strain of seaweed that tastes like bacon when it's cooked. The seaweed, a form of red marine algae, looks like translucent red lettuce. It also has twice the nutritional value of kale and grows very quickly. Did we mention it tastes like bacon? Are any of you bacon addicts out there? According to Oregon State researcher Chris Langdon, his team started growing the new strain while trying to find a good food source for edible sea snails, or abalone, a very popular food in many parts of Asia. The strain is a new type of red algae that normally grows alongside the Pacific and Atlantic coastlines. But Langdon realized he had his hands on something with a lot more potential. When his colleague Chuck Toombs visited his office and caught a glimpse of the growing seaweed. Toombs said he thought that the bacon seaweed had, quote, the potential for a new industry for Oregon, he told Oregon State in a press release. Toombs then began working with the university's Food Innovation Center, which created a range of foods with the seaweed as its main ingredients. Langdon said no U.S. companies grow red algae for people to eat, but the seaweed has been consumed by people in Northern Europe for centuries. Quote, this stuff is pretty amazing, Langdon told OSU. When you fry it, which I have done, it tastes like bacon, not seaweed. And it's a pretty strong bacon flavor. Though no analysis has been done yet to find out whether commercializing the bacon seaweed would be practical. The team thinks the vegan and vegetarian markets may be interested. Toombs' MBA students are hard at work on a marketing plan for a new line of specialty foods. Some red algae is sold in the U.S. now, but it is a different strain from one harvested at OSU. Langdon says he is growing about 20 to 30 pounds of the stuff a week, but he plans to more than triple the production. And shoot, that does sound really delicious. I personally am not a meat eater, but the tofu substitutes are really delicious. That fake and bacon stuff is actually pretty darn good. Favorite snack of mine for appetizers at parties is bacon wraps. You take pitted dates, open them up, put a big glob of ricotta cheese on it, wrap it in bacon or fake and bacon, put it in, put a toothpick through it and set the oven to 350 for 18 minutes, and you have a delicious and amazing snack that everybody at the party will love you for. And shoot, if we have seaweed that tastes like bacon, I feel like we could have like really delicious all green, or in this case red, salads that have twice the health value as kale. For one, I'm a huge kale eater out here. You know, all the superfoods, quinoa, kale, chia seeds, kombucha. I know I am a hipster, but it's all good stuff. Gotta love your body. Gotta put good fuel into it. That's what I always say. Next up, we have from Gawker.com, quote, "It's about what happens from here. Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, crushed the ESPYs." Caitlyn Jenner received this year's Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs, and more impressively, 2 standing ovations from the entire room during the live ceremony, one before and one after her wide-ranging 10-minute acceptance speech, which touched on her transition but was devoted more to her activism on behalf of the trans community. Quote, "With attention comes responsibility," she explains. In front of an audience filled with some of the most well-known professional athletes in the country, Jenner discussed the harsh realities trans people face today, name-checking Mercedes Williamson, a 17-year-old trans teen girl who was found murdered in Mississippi last month, as well as Sam Taub, a trans teen boy who killed himself in April. Jenner said she felt it was her responsibility to, quote, "do whatever I can to reshape the landscape of how trans issues are viewed, how trans people are treated, and then more broadly, to promote a very simple idea: accepting people for who they are, accepting people's differences." Her speech was clearly crafted to be idiot-proof and easily digestible. Quote, "Trans people deserve something vital. They deserve your respect, and from that respect comes a more compassionate community, a more empathetic society, and a better world for all of us," she said, as the crowd interrupted her with applause. She thanked Diane Sawyer, who was in the crowd, and teared up while thanking her children and mother. She tied everything together: her award, her celebrity, her life, her activism, in a show-stopping conclusion that went in full. Excuse me. "You know, it is an honor to have the word courage associated with my life, but on this night, another word comes to mind, and that is fortunate. I owe a lot to sports. It showed me the world. It's given me an identity. If someone wanted to bully me, well, you know what? I was the MVP of the football team. That just wasn't going to be a problem. And the same goes tonight. If you want to call me names, make jokes, doubt my intentions, go ahead. Because the reality is, I can take it. But for the thousands of kids out there coming to terms with being true to who they are, they shouldn't have to take it. So for the people out there wondering what this is all about, whether it's about courage or controversy or publicity, well, I'll tell you that it's all what it's all about. It's about what happens from here. It's not just about one person. It's about thousands of people. It's not just about me. It's about all of us accepting one another. We're all different. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And while it may not be easy to get past the things you don't always understand, I want to prove that it is absolutely possible if we only do it together. Inarguable and terrific. I'm going to play a short excerpt of that clip here. I am just really pleased that she is bringing a little bit of awareness to being trans, and I mean, and that we exist. And I agree with her as well as a trans woman. You can insult me. You can insult Caitlyn Jenner. Say what you want, but don't take it out on the kids just coming out, or even if you're older and you're questioning your gender identity and you're having a hard time coming out. Don't take it out on people who are in the beginning of their transition, because they're struggling to understand what their gender identity is, and it's not easy. It's really, really tricky to navigate all that. I remember when I was at the beginning of my transition, I had a hard time, but now I've learned, and now I am stepping up, as Caitlyn Jenner is stepping up, to take it for the rest of us. And all we demand is just a little bit of understanding. All that we ask for is a little understanding. Here's a clip of short clip of Caitlyn Jenner and part of the speech. You can find this and more on thequeerlife.org. If you have any questions while this is playing, feel free to give us a call, 707-545-0318. If you're listening on Friday, I'll open up the lines right now, 707-545-0318.
The courageous, the stunning Caitlyn Jenner.
Wow, I have to talk after that? Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to be here tonight. Now, the last few months have been a whirlwind of so many different experiences and emotions. But to tell you the truth, it seems like every time I turn around in life, I'm putting myself in these high-pressure situations, competing in the games, raising a family. But I've never felt more pressure than I ever have felt in my life than over the last couple of months. Picking out this outfit. Okay, girls, I get it. You got to get the shoes, the hair, the makeup, the whole process. It was exhausting. And next, the fashion police. Please be kind on me. I'm new at this. But anyway. And I just want to take a quick shout out to our soccer team that they have absolutely. Ladies, you clean up very well. Well, the real truth is that before, just a few months ago, I had never met anybody else who was trans, who was like me. I had never met a trans person, never. Now, as you just saw, I dealt with my situation on my own, in private. And that turned this journey into an already incredible education. It's been eye-opening, inspiring, but also frightening. All across this country right now, all across the world, at this very moment, there are young people coming to terms with being transgender. They're learning that they're different, and they're trying to figure out how to handle that on top of every other problem that a teenager has. They're getting bullied. They're getting beaten up. They're getting murdered. And they're committing suicide. The numbers that you just heard before are staggering. But they are the reality of what it's like to be trans today. Just last month, the body of 17-year-old Mercedes Williamson, a transgender young woman of color, was found in a field in Mississippi, stabbed to death. I also want to tell you about Sam Taub, a 15-year-old transgendered young man from Bloomfield, Michigan. In early April, Sam took his own life. Now, Sam's story haunts me in particular because his death came just a few days before ABC aired my interview with Diane Sawyer. Every time something like this happens, people wonder, could it have been different if spotlighting this issue with more attention could have changed the way things happen? We'll never know. If there's one thing I do know about my life, it is the power of the spotlight. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, but with attention comes responsibility. As a group, as athletes, how you conduct your lives, what you say, what you do, is absorbed and observed by millions of people, especially young people. I know I'm clear with my responsibility in going forward to tell my story the right way, for me, to keep learning, to do whatever I can to reshape the landscape of how trans issues are viewed, how trans people are treated, and then more broadly, to promote a very simple idea: accepting people for who they are, accepting people's differences. My plea to you tonight is to join me in making this one of your issues as well. How do we start? We start with education. I was fortunate enough to meet Arthur Ashe a few times, and I know how important education was to him. Learn as much as you can about another person to understand them better. I know the people in this room have respect for hard work, for training, for going through something difficult to achieve the outcome that you desire. I trained hard. I competed hard. And for that, people respected me. But this transition has been harder on me than anything I could imagine. And that's the case for so many others besides me. For that reason alone, trans people deserve something vital. They deserve your respect. And from that respect comes a more compassionate community, a more empathetic society, and a better world for all of us. There have been so many who have traveled this road before me, from sports Renee Richards to Chaz Bono to Laverne Cox and many others. Janet Mock, who's with us tonight. And I want to thank them all publicly, as well as the ESPYs and the late Arthur Ashe and his family for giving me this platform to start this next phase of my journey. I also want to acknowledge all the young trans athletes who are out there, given the chance to play sports as who they really are. And now, as of this week, it appears that trans people will soon be serving in the military. That's a great idea. We have come a long way, but we have a lot of work to do. I'd like to thank, personally, my buddy Diane Sawyer. You know, you can only tell your story the first time once, and Diane, you did it so authentically and so gracefully. And me and the community is so thankful for that. And I thank you so much, Diane. I'm so proud to have you as a friend. Here comes the tough part. I'd like to thank my family. Now, the biggest fear I've always had in coming out is I never wanted to hurt anyone else. Most of all, my family and my kids. I always wanted my children to be so proud of their dad for what he was able to accomplish in his life. You guys have given so much back to me. You've given me so much support. I am
Está usted escuchando KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga.
La organización Oaxaca Tierra del Sol, a través de este anuncio, patrocina parte de la programación de KBBF Radio Cultura.
La organización Oaxaca Tierra del Sol, miembro del Comité Mexicano de San Francisco, se enorgullece presentar su magno evento La Guelaguetza 2015, el domingo 19 de julio en el Wells Fargo Center for the Arts en Santa Rosa. Venga y disfrute con su familia de este evento, donde encontrará música, comidas típicas tradicionales, folclor, arte, cultura y atracciones infantiles. La Guelaguetza 2015 en el Condado de Sonoma, desde las 10 de la mañana hasta las 6 de la tarde. Adquisición de boletos el día del evento y en línea al www.guelaguetzatierradelsol.org. Para mayores informes, comunicarse al 415-754-9079.
Desde Santa Rosa, para el norte de California, transmite KBBF 89.1 FM.
All right, everybody. Hello. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. In the last hour, I was talking about a police lieutenant suspended for calling same-sex marriage debauchery. All the links to all the articles that I'm referencing are on thequeerlife.org. Episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. Ireland approved a gender recognition bill from HuffingtonPost.com. Men who held hands in Moscow, viral video had to pretend to be anti-gay to avoid violence from pinknews.co.uk. And researchers discover seaweed that tastes like bacon and is twice as healthy as kale. that delicious, amazing green that you can cook in oh so many wonderful ways. Sorry, I am getting hungry. It is just about dinner time. It is 5 minutes after the hour here. You're listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT as in lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, asexual, and allies. News, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Last week's episode 49, was with Professor Richard Gregory Johnson III from University of San Francisco, sharing his perspective and ideas about race, culture, gender identity, and sexual orientation. That was a fantastic interview he gave, and I have that episode available, episode 49, on thequeerlife.org. If you just want to find this content and more, just Google The Queer Life, and you can find us. I'm going to place the rest of this acceptance speech from the Arthur Ashe Courage Award from Caitlyn Jenner. We'll be right back after this. Feel free to give us a call at any time during this interview playing, 707-545-0318. We'll be right back.
And certainly last but not least, my mother. My mom, who just a little over a week ago had to have surgery and didn't think she was going to make it. But she is here with me tonight to share this night. Now, I always thought that I got my courage and my determination from my dad, who landed on Omaha Beach, fought all the way through World War II. But you know what I'm realizing now, Mom? I think I got all those qualities from you. Love you very much. And I'm so glad you're here to share this with me. It is an honor to have the word courage associated with my life. But on this night, another word comes to mind, and that is fortunate. I owe a lot to sports. It showed me the world. It's giving me an identity. If someone wanted to bully me, well, you know what? I was the MVP of the football team. That just wasn't going to be a problem. And the same thing goes tonight. If you want to call me names, make jokes, doubt my intentions, go ahead. Because the reality is, I can take it. But for the thousands of kids out there coming to terms with being true to who they are, they shouldn't have to take it. So for the people out there wondering what this is all about, whether it's about courage or controversy or publicity, well, I'll tell you what it's all about. It's about what happens from here. It's not just about one person. It's about thousands of people. It's not just about me. It's about all of us accepting one another. We're all different. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And while it may not be easy to get past the things you always don't understand, I want to prove that it is absolutely possible if we only do it together. Thank you so much for this platform. Thank you so much for this honor bestowed on myself and my family. Thank you.
That was Caitlyn Jenner accepting the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, and this happened just recently, just this week. So presenting that, if you're just tuning in right now, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I'm your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. If you were listening to this on Friday, you're listening on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga. If you're listening to this on Tuesday nights, you're listening to this on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga from 9 to 11 p.m. This show rebroadcasts through our syndication on KWTF 88.1 FM Bodega Bay on Wednesdays, 6 to 8 p.m. And at every time, all the time, 24/7, anywhere in the world, you can find the Queer Life Radio Show on the web, on thequeerlife.org. If you like podcasts on iTunes or tune in a radio app or Stitcher or what have you, you can visit and just search The Queer Life, one word, or on thequeerlife.org. We have a link to the iTunes podcast. So we've got all the different ways you can follow us available on the web. And this is all a volunteer-run outfit. I'm a volunteer. All the people associated with the Queer Life are volunteers. Everybody at KBBF is a volunteer. And so if you support the Queer Life Radio Show, visit kbbf-fm.org and hit the donate link at the bottom of the page. And if you have $5, that is absolutely incredibly helpful to the Queer Life Radio Show being on KBBF, which is where we broadcast from and where this show was born. And here we are, 50 episodes later, and we're just moving forward. And I don't plan to quit, and this is gonna just keep putting that message out there. And if you know anybody else who can benefit from listening to this program, recommend that they listen and check out thequeerlife.org. We're all up everywhere on the web, in the radio, maybe on TV, who knows? If you have any idea where we should be next, also let us know. Visit thequeerlife.org and hit the contact button. I'd love to know what your ideas and suggestions are for this show. We're constantly growing and learning. From pinknews.co.uk, Nick Duffy writes, Preacher, Supreme Court justices were blackmailed by their secret gay lovers. A New York preacher has claimed that the U.S. Supreme Court only voted in favor of same-sex marriage because the justices were, quote, blackmailed by their supposed gay lovers. The highest court in the U.S. ruled last month that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right, helped to bring equal marriage to all 50 states. However, Pastor James David Manning of the ATLAH Worldwide Missionary Church in New York has a theory for why the 5 pro-gay justices voted in favor of equality. Manning claims, quote, the devil himself has written this opinion and has gotten it into the lives of people. Quote, I suspect that Kennedy and many of those who are on the Supreme Court have had sodomite relations themselves. He continues, I suspect that many of these justices are having things done where they have got to support this sodomy. They've got to say it or otherwise they get exposed. Though it would be extreme from anyone else, it is actually comparatively lucid compared to many of Manning's comments in the past, whether he is predicting that Vladimir Putin will out Barack Obama or claiming that homosexuals are putting semen into Starbucks lattes. Pastor Manning has a strange fixation on homosexuality. He has also urged parents to take their children out of schools to avoid the, quote, demonic homosexual mafia, making them gay, and claimed that out NFL player Michael Sam could marry a 9-year-old boy, which is, again, pedophilia and illegal and has nothing to do with being homosexual. And this idea of a demonic homosexual mafia is, you know, I feel like that needs to be a bumper sticker. If any of you out there are graphic artists or good with Photoshop or whatever, if you could make me a bumper sticker for the demonic homosexual mafia, that would be fantastic. I want to see it. You know, tweet us at the Queer Life and do hashtag demonic homosexual mafia and put your images in, or do it on Tumblr or Pinterest or Facebook. That would be fantastic. I kind of want this now, demonic homosexual mafia. I can't make this stuff up. I really can't. I mean, you know, it's not like there's big issues going on like the polar ice caps are melting or anything like that. Instead, we have people who are worried about a demonic homosexual mafia. I'm imagining very well-dressed Italian gay men, you know, in nice suits, you know, maybe with a pink shirt underneath, and you know, having horns or glowing red eyes or something. I feel like this is a movie, demonic homosexual mafia, starring Sean Penn. You know, I have a short audio clip here of Pastor Manning espousing his views, and I am going to share it with you here. It's about a minute and a half, and I encourage you to make your own decisions about what he's saying and whether you believe him or not. And if you have any comments or you want to contribute to this conversation, feel free to give us a call while this is playing, 707-545-0318. That number again, 707-545-0318. We'll be right back after playing this piece about from Pastor Manning saying justice is blackmailed over gay marriage ruling.
The opinion and who gave the swing vote to legalize same-sex unions in defiance of what the Word of God says, in clear defiance of what the Word of God. But beyond that, for those that are atheists and don't believe the Bible, this family, this heterosexual, this man with woman has dominated this planet from spear to spear, from sea to shining sea, and every inch of ground of this planet has been dominated, and all of the universe, all of this planet has agreed universally for the years that we've lived on this earth that is a man and a woman. For the Supreme Court to do that is nothing short of the fact that the devil himself has written this opinion and has gotten into the lives of people. And I suspect that perhaps Kennedy and many of those who are on the Supreme Court have had sodomite relations themselves. You know, there was a pastor, Rick, out in Colorado, the True Life something. It's some church out there in Colorado who was preaching against sodomy, but he was having homosexual sodomy relationship with a sodomite lover every Tuesday. And this lover said, well, you can't preach anymore because I'm going to tell it. And he told everybody. I suspect that many of these justices are having things done that where they have got to support this sodomy. They got to say it, otherwise they get exposed.
All right. So he is claiming that the Supreme Court justices are getting blackmailed because of their supposed same-sex relations, and they made this ruling because of blackmail. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that kind of sounds a little bit like conspiracy. And for equality rights to happen, people don't need to be blackmailed. People just need to understand that, hey, we're all human beings and we just all deserve a fair chance. And that's really all that I'm trying to talk about here on this radio show. But again, I'm just presenting to you information and showing you, giving you a little perspective. And of course, the decision is yours. I'm just asking questions. I'm just sharing information. And make the decisions for yourself about what you believe in and how you want to treat your fellow human being. Next, from Jezebel.com, we have an article called, "Do We Really Need a Documentary About White Privilege?" On July 22nd, MTV is premiering a documentary titled White People about what it means to be young and white in America. A question to which we already know the answers. And yet here is a film that explores white privilege and exposes willful ignorance through the lens of 5 white people. In the above trailer, prominent undocumented journalist Jose Antonio Vargas asks his documentary subjects questions like, quote, "How might your life be different if you weren't white?" And when you say white, what does that mean to you? A few quotes from the white people in the trailer. Quote, "If you say the wrong thing, then suddenly you are a racist." Quote, "I don't want to offend people." Quote, "We've never had to internalize what white people have done in America. It feels like I'm being discriminated against. You kind of get this feeling that things belong to you. The non-cynical approach is to assume this film comes with good intentions of forcing white people to confront race and to acknowledge that, potentially, the idea of watching white people squeamishly articulate their privilege is sufficient entertainment in itself. The documentary also consciously plays off the belief that since black people are inherently publicly forced into race discussions, it's white people who should be having these conversations for a change. Proud to live in a country where an undocumented gay Filipino can make a film for @MTV called White People, July 8th, 2015, but it also mainly just looks like a bunch of white folks boo-hooing about the, quote, burden of talking about race and why they hate potentially being labeled racists, while also explaining how great they have it at a time when black Americans are perpetually silenced by default. This is a tough pill to swallow. A lot of us know exactly what it means to be white in America. Do you white people really need a documentary about you in order to understand other people's pain? I'm going to play the trailer here for you of the documentary White People here. Here it is for you in a moment. Get that running here. Got a little bit all right, here we go.
So we're doing a film for MTV on what it means to be young and white.
Okay.
Okay.
If you say the wrong thing, then suddenly you are a racist.
Trying to be careful here.
I don't want to offend people. I feel like you guys are attacking me now.
If I bring up any sort of race issue with my parents, they immediately assume that I'm demonizing them.
Can you have?
How might your life be different if you weren't white? When you say white, what does that mean to you?
We've never had to internalize what white people have done in America, but here, you can't escape that.
Feels like I'm being discriminated against.
You kind of get this feeling that things belong to you.
I'm getting uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
Hey, this is great. Let's get all uncomfortable together.
Estás escuchando KBBF 89.1 FM, Radio Cultura.
Estás escuchando KBBF 89.1 FM, Radio Cultura, Calistoga, Santa Rosa.
All right. Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. And this is absolutely incredible. It's 50 episodes here on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga, which is where this show is born. We're also syndicated on KWTF 88.1 FM Bodega Bay, and we've got a podcast. We're on the web. Visit us on thequeerlife.org, and you'll find every single episode available for your viewing pleasure. And yes, I said viewing because this episode is videoed or filmed or however you want to put it, because we do a live streaming broadcast video inside the studio at KBBF Studios, and it is just, like I said, an absolute pleasure to share all the work that we are doing here. In the last hour and a half, we talked about a police lieutenant suspended for calling same-sex marriage debauchery from Joseph Patrick McCormick on pinknews.co.uk. Ireland finally approved the gender recognition bill in terms of gender identity and transgender people in Ireland. Men who held hands in Moscow viral video had to pretend to be anti-gay to avoid violence. Researchers discover that a seaweed that tastes like bacon and is twice as healthy as kale. I can't wait to get my hands on that. And I shared the Ash Courage Award from that Caitlyn Jenner received and the speech that she gave on that, and absolutely incredible. A preacher was saying that the Supreme Court justices were blackmailed by their secret gay lovers. That's from pinknews.co.uk. And Jezebel.com writes, do we really need a documentary about white privilege? And I played the trailer to that documentary. Next up here, and as goes with the title of this episode, episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. Massive earthquake will destroy the Pacific Northwest, according to New Yorker story by Jake Ellison on blog.sfgate.com. By now, you might have seen or been told about the New Yorker's deep dive into the coming mega-thrust earthquake/tsunami that's guaranteed to smash the hell out of everything west of the Cascades. If not, jump on board the fear train. For once, the subject of the story isn't California, so breathe a sigh of relief for now. Instead, the article focuses on the Cascadia subduction zone, a region that is overdue for a cataclysmic earthquake. The New Yorker writes, in the Pacific Northwest, everything west of Interstate 5 covers some 140,000 square miles, including Seattle, Tacoma, Portland, Eugene, Salem, the capital city of Oregon, Olympia, the capital of Washington, and some 7 million people. When the next full margin rupture happens, that region will suffer the worst natural disaster in the history of North America. Roughly 3,000 people died in San Francisco's 1906 earthquake. Almost 2,000 died in Hurricane Katrina. Almost 300 died in Hurricane Sandy. FEMA projects that nearly 13,000 people will die in the Cascadia earthquake and tsunami. Another 27,000 will be injured, and the agency expects that it will need to provide shelter for 1 million displaced people and food and water for another 2.5 million. Quote, this is one time that I'm hoping all the science is wrong, and it won't happen for another 1,000 years, Murphy says. In fact, the science is robust, and one of the chief scientists behind it is Chris Goldfinger. Thanks to work done by him and his colleagues, we now know that the odds of the big Cascadia earthquake happening in the next 50 years are roughly 1 in 3. The odds of the very big one are roughly 1 in 10. Even those numbers do not fully reflect the danger, or more to the point, how unprepared the Pacific Northwest is to face it. The truly worrisome figures in this story are these. 30 years ago, no one knew that the Cascadia subduction zone had ever produced a major earthquake. 45 years ago, no one knew it even existed. The story is rife with urgency. According to scientists, the Cascadia region probably has a 243-year interval between earthquakes. It's been 315 years since the last major eruption along the fault, so they're massively overdue. The earthquake itself is projected to be somewhere between a 8.7 and 9.2. The upper limit of our fearful friend, the San Andreas Fault in California here, is about 8.2, which, according to the story, is just 6% as strong as the quake that hit Japan in 2011. Our partners up in Seattle at the PI have been writing about coming disaster for years, including in this story published in 2013 when a study was released confirming the relative timing for megathrusts in the Northwest. Digging into the soil at the Effingham Inlet in the British Columbia, Canadian scientists have confirmed the city-destroying megathrust earthquake in the Northwest is due. The Cascadia subduction zone, running the length of the coast from northern Vancouver Island down to California, last slipped and shook the surface of the earth 300 years ago, and that was just the latest of 22 such quakes in the past 11,000 years. The scientists, whose work is published in the latest Canadian Journal of Earth Sciences, used a new aging model for identifying and dating disturbed sedimentary layers in a core raised from the inlets. The disturbances appear to have been caused by large megathrust earthquakes that have occurred over the past 11,000 years, according to a science news site run by the American Association for the Advancement of Science. One of the co-authors of the study, Dr. Audrey Dallimore, associate professor at Royal Roads University, told the news site, quote, "We have identified 22 earthquake shaking events over the last 11,000 years, giving an estimate of a recurrence interval for large and megathrust earthquakes of about 500 years. However, it appears that the time between major shaking events can stretch up to about 1,000 years. The last megathrust earthquake originating from the Cascadia subduction zone occurred in 1700 AD. Therefore, we are now in the risk zone of another earthquake, even though it could be tomorrow or perhaps even centuries before it occurs. Paleoseismic studies such as this one can help us understand the nature and frequency of rupture along the Cascadia subduction zone. If you are now intensely paranoid about a tsunami striking the Bay Area, here's a link to the California Geological Survey's tsunami inundation maps. You can find this link for this article and more on thequeerlife.org. This is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices. If you're just tuning in right now, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and we are almost at the end of this 2-hour show. This is an hour and 38 minutes into the show now, and next we have up on the list here, other than, just to comment on that a little bit. Do we have natural disasters and the potential of happening all the time? Yes. There's constantly the threat of huge meteors hurling through space that could destroy all life on this planet as we know it. This Cascadia subduction zone could slip at any time, causing massive tsunamis and 13,000 estimated deaths as a result. A 9.2 earthquake, more than 100 times the power of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. It will level cities. And this could happen anytime. I'm not saying this to frighten you. I'm not saying this to fearmonger or anything. We have these things kind of on the verge of happening all the time, but prepare yourselves with knowledge, friends. If you're not in an earthquake-safe building, reassess. Perhaps get into a living situation or work situation where the building is going to survive a massive earthquake, which most are actually in California. We're quite well fitted and suited for that. Have an earthquake survival kit, rations of food, because when a state of emergency goes down, the entire infrastructure goes down, and it's very hard to support people, because if an entire area is decimated, safety and support workers are not only going to try to help other people, but they're also going to help their own families and stuff. And so in a state of emergency, things can get crazy. So it's always best, as my Scoutmaster put it, be prepared. That's the Scout slogan for my younger scouting days. But enough fear-mongering aside, we have other interesting things going on, like technology. And in this case, Nick Duffy on pinknews.co.uk writes, Surrey is correcting anyone who uses Caitlyn Jenner's old name. Do you have an iPhone? Well, if you're familiar with the voice software, you can ask her anything. Ask her what is the meaning of life, when does the world end. You can ask questions like this. But if you look up something about Bruce Jenner, Surrey will correct you. Apple's personal voice assistant Surrey is refusing to use Caitlyn Jenner's former name. The former Olympic athlete and reality TV star announced her transition to female earlier this year. She announced on the cover of Vanity Fair that she would change her name to Caitlyn, and Surrey is so trans-friendly. It now refuses to use her old name at all. Asking Surrey about her former name generates the response, Caitlyn Jenner's full name is Caitlyn Jenner. Similarly, using her former name, asking how tall she is or how many children she has will lead to the voice assistant correcting you. It seems like Surrey has changed its mind about LGBT people recently, with the previous Russian version of Surrey refusing to discuss sexuality at all. When asked, Surrey, tell me about gay marriage, the voice assistant replies, Alex, you are so rude. Discussion of gay clubs doesn't go much better, with Surrey saying, quote, I would have turned red if I could. When asked for directions to the nearest gay bar, when asked how to register a gay marriage in England, it aptly says, I will pretend I didn't hear that. Apple declined to give a statement when approached by Pink News, but a spokesman said it was a bug that has since been fixed. And so again, our technology is changing in terms of our understanding and recognition of LGBT rights. And if you ask a question to a robot, honestly, the question I'm asking is, should it carry human opinions on it? Or should it just give facts? Now, of course, on this radio show, my perspectives do come through. The show is called Perspectives. But again, I share with you news. And I, as always, leave it up to you to make your own decisions about what ways you want to treat your fellow human being. And it's just the way things go. And, we're human beings, we're intelligent, and we have the ability to communicate and to share knowledge. And this is just another part of that. If you're just tuning in right now, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I'm your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 50, Massive Earthquakes and Gay Justices, here on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga and KWTF 88.1 FM Bodega Bay, and all over the interwebs on thequeerlife.org, or just Google The Queer Life. You'll find us, I promise. Next article we have on the list here is from Leo Babauta from zenhabits.net, article titled, I Suck at Habits. How do I get better? I've had numerous readers tell me that they suck at habits. And I totally get that, because in 2005, that's exactly where I was. I sucked at habits. The good news is that I found a smarter way. I learned to understand that habits are a set of patterns that I just needed to repeat until they became more and more automatic. And that setting up the right environment is everything. Let me repeat that. Setting up the right habit environment is everything. If you suck at developing habits right now, or good habits, that's because your environment is set up for you to fail. It's incredibly hard to defeat a hostile habit environment. So the first thing to know is that you don't suck. Your environment does. You just need to learn to set up a better habit environment. I also learned that I was often failing because I didn't believe in myself. I would give up when things got hard because deep down I didn't really think I was going to succeed. I didn't believe because past evidence from repeated failures told me I most likely wasn't going to succeed. I had proven to myself over and over again that I sucked at habits, and this belief got in the way of future habit successes. What's the way out of this negative feedback loop? You change the message. You tell yourself you're going to succeed no matter what. And your past failures don't count because this time you're going to put everything you have into it and not allow failure. You change a habit that's so easy to do that you can't possibly fail, and then you let that habit success redefine your belief in yourself. So the second thing to learn is that you can create a belief and trust in yourself if you make this success your only option. It turns out that the same set of actions will address both of these things. 1, setting up the right habit environment, and 2, making a habit success your only option so that you can start trusting yourself. Let's take a look at those actions: the right habit environment and creating trust in yourself. I read a whole book on setting up the right habit environment, and for now, let me give you these basic tips. Start super small. If you want to build trust in yourself, you need to start with something incredibly easy, something you won't fail to do. Most people ignore this advice and fail, and then don't believe in themselves. I've said it on this blog for the last years because it's so fundamental. You have to start small, super small. If you want to run, form the habit of getting up and running for 2 minutes. Set the bar for success as low as you can. Start by drinking a glass of water each day, or stretching for 1 minute, or doing 1 push-up, or flossing 1 tooth. You are building trust in yourself and setting yourself up with the right habit environment. When you want to do what you want to do from there is only progress very gradually. Make it so slow that it seems too easy to add more. Don't challenge yourself, but make it a sure thing. Each step along the way, the new level of your habit becomes your new normal. And you'll be amazed at the magnitude of successful change this can bring. Create public accountability. Eventually, you might build so much trust in yourself that you won't need accountability, but in the beginning, set yourself up with the right habit environment by creating public accountability. Tell people you're going to do your new habit and ask them to hold you accountable. Maybe even set up a consequence for failure, report to them regularly, or have a public log. Trust me, with an environment like this, you are much more likely to succeed. Be all in. One of the mistakes I used to make was only to half commit myself. Tell myself in the morning that I was going to do something, and by the afternoon, or at best a week later, I'd quietly let myself off the hook. This only caused me to trust myself less. Now, when I really want to succeed, I commit myself fully. In my own head, I tell myself that I'm absolutely going to do this, and I won't let myself fail. I make myself an unbreakable vow. Then I do my utmost to honor this commitment to myself. Also, journal your habit. This is an optional step, but it really steps up the habit change by helping you to learn everything you can from your experience. As you go through the habit change, you reflect on how you're doing and what obstacles you come up, what your rationalizations might be, where you can improve. Even just 1 to 2 sentences a day or a few sentences every other day can be a major factor in success. This article that I'm talking about and more is available on thequeerlife.org. This article is called I Suck at Habits, How Do I Get Better? By Leo Babauta on zenhabits.net. If you're just tuning in right now, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and it's 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I am closing up the show now. I want to thank you all so much for listening and following along with the show. If you've been following along for several episodes or even from the beginning here. And again, I just want to spread the message that if you are suffering, if you have doubt in yourself, if you're questioning your sexual orientation, if you're questioning your gender identity, if you're just questioning yourself and you have low confidence, I'm going to let you know that it's going to be okay, and that your first priority and your main priority is to take care of yourself and put yourself in a position where you're surrounded by people that love you and people that support you and a community that will support you. Help yourself get to some place where you are safe. And like I said, everything is going to be okay. If you're questioning your gender identity and you're wondering if people will accept you, if you'll get a job, if whatever, it's going to be okay. Things got better for me. Things got better for a lot of other people. And it's going to be okay. And so if you need help or you need help seeking resources, visit thequeerlife.org, hit the Get Help button at the top of the page. And like I said, help is always available. And as always, you're beautiful. You're just another human being, and it's all right. Just try to be happy. Thank you so much for listening. You're listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. Tune in every Friday on KBBF 89.1 FM from 6 to 8 p.m. Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. and KWTF 88.1 FM from 6 to 8 p.m. and anytime on thequeerlife.org. Thanks so much for listening.